Welcome to our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and this program continues our Family Learning Hour. This program is going to be about study, about getting interested in what you have to study, about studying within your attention span, about learning to learn the way you learn best. This is a program about taking the step of reading and moving it into reading stuff you need to be able to remember.
Yeah, these are two entirely different concepts. I mean, when you study, you're going to do some reading. But the idea of studying while you read, that's what almost everybody does, and that's what hangs them up. That's what slows everybody down. Then they get distracted, lose their place, and get the idea that they're not very good at studying. If you understand that reading, as we discussed in our last program, is not studying, not judging. You don't have to reflect on it while you read it any more than if you thought about how to read while you were reading. That would be confusing and distracting as well. And so we'll talk again about practicing your trifocus so that that all becomes automatic. You don't have to think about how to read while you read. It'll just happen automatically. But get the even bigger point, that we separate study into another step.
So really there are several pieces here to make sure we do the study the right way. And it's finding the best way for you to do it. But it always starts with creating the right state of mind. It always starts with finding yourself in paradise, because it's that self that is your best learner, and it's that paradise place where you feel safe enough so your mind knows, well, I'm in no danger, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to be concerned about, we're safe here, so we can tune out all the stuff out there and tune into being really ready to learn in here. So the first step is always, and let's do it now, to close your eyes, take a deep breath, release, and start some paradise thinking as you find yourself in this place of peace. And let your mind relax.
Create in your mind the sense of what it would be like to find yourself in a beautiful place of perfect peace, a place of ideal relaxation that's essentially just yours. You're alone and really enjoying the solitude and the sense of safety, connecting to nature on what you could easily imagine to be a beautiful day with green trees and grass. You could be in a sunny meadow or a cool, shady place, an isolated beach, or maybe even your favorite easy chair at home. Whatever for you is a place of perfect peace. Feel that and experience from head to toe in your body the feeling of being that safe and that relaxed.
And every time it's time to learn, you come here first. Because in this place, your mind says it's safe to pay attention. It doesn't have to worry about anything out there being dangerous. In this place, it feels safe to pay attention. So you come here first. And then the next thing you do, once you find yourself feeling safe, is to let your mind know what the goal is, what we want to create. So take a moment now and imagine yourself sometime from today in the future being a great reader, being a great learner, being able to pick up a book and just know it, just read it and learn it. And when it's time to take a test, you remember it best. Just imagine yourself being a great learner. And let the mind know this is where we're going. This is the direction that we want to go. And as you imagine yourself being a great learner, let your mind know how wonderful that would be by pretending it's true and imagining as best as you can how it would feel if it were true, and be so proud of yourself. Be so confident that you'll remember it best when it comes to the test, and feel like being a great learner is what you are becoming, even as you think about it right now.
Remember where you have safely stashed away your magic reading book. and reorient yourself to that place. And take the book out, and as you begin to cherish the book and really love that book, feel connected to the earth. That is, if you're not already, sit now upon the earth, or a rock or a log or tree stump, but feel connected, even rooted into the earth.
And as you imagine yourself sitting there with your magic book, your imaginary wonderful book, you can imagine as if you're seeing yourself sitting there, or as if it's through your own eyes and you're like feeling yourself sitting there. But you're there with your book, and you see yourself sitting up straight. Your eyes are wide open, and you're breathing deep, and you're holding the book up, looking out at the book instead of down at the book, keeping your eyes open. And you see yourself ready and so excited to read this book. And as you open the book, you see the page that looks like that trifocus exercise. And in a few moments, we're going to move the eyes. Get ready now. Here we go. Left, center, right, left, center, right, left, center, right. Stop, rest the eyes, and realize every time you read in the trifocus. When you read in the trifocus, your concentration is total and complete. When your concentration is less than total and complete, your eyes will stop. Now, take that book once again, hold it in your hand, and to the best of your ability, all that you have at your command, love that book, more, more, more. And now take a deep breath and bring yourself back to wide awake. So now, you have that book, you have that passion. Now we're going to bring that passion into studying any book that you have to study, anything you need to read. So the first step, whenever you need to read, is to take the real book and hold it in your hands and close your eyes and go to your peaceful place and feel the power of that real book. And then open your eyes and open the real book for real. And before you read, before you study, before you do anything, what you do is you warm up your mind. You look at each page for just a few seconds. Just look at each page. Let the eyes roam down the page. Pick out a word here and there. Notice a picture. Notice a caption. Notice an italicized or a bold word. But this isn't reading or even, it isn't even skimming. It's just scanning the material. And all you're doing is letting your mind get an idea of like what's to come. What subject is this? What are we about to learn? And on a conscious level, what your mind is doing is it's getting warmed up, like warming up the engine before you drive away. But on a subconscious level, something really powerful is happening. Because you see, the eye and the mind are like a camera. And we all have photographic memories, although some of us develop the film better than others. We all take the pictures. So what happens is, as we look at those pages, page after page after page, the eye taking a picture of each page, when it does come time to go read that page, to the mind, it will feel familiar. It will not feel like the unknown, and the fear we have of learning something unknown is tremendously diminished. It feels familiar, and it makes it so much easier to learn.
You see, interest is a choice. It really is. I mean, if you decide that you'll be interested if that happens to you, well, then you've made a choice to be a victim of the circumstance or situation. But if you form the intention to be interested, you bring your free will or your willpower to, well, I have to be interested. This is important for school or for work or some other endeavor in my life, and whether I like it or not, this is something I have to read and understand and be able to apply in my life. So don't get caught up in some kind of trap around, well, I'm just not interested because I just don't feel interested. Maybe it's because you haven't even looked at the material yet. Maybe if you took a moment right now, think of a situation like this where you need to study some material that maybe you haven't been all that interested in. And ask yourself, in school or at work, why would they want me to know this? What is the value in this? At the very core, what kernel is most important in this material that it would be included in this curriculum here at school or in a report that is essential for me to write at work or some similar situation. Why would you be interested? Ponder it. Take a step back. Look at the bigger picture as well as the details and ask why.
And usually you'll find a reason to be interested. But sometimes it's so hard to find one. Sometimes it seems like the material is irrelevant to your life, like there's no application, there's no reason at all that you can imagine why you'd never need to learn this. And you know what? Sometimes you're right. Sometimes learning the stuff that they want you to learn is of no value to you, but yet you have to learn it. It's going to be on the test. So sometimes we have to get interested in things that we're just not interested in. Sometimes we have to make ourselves be interested, and we can do that, you see. The wonderful thing about the mind is that we're in charge. The higher self is in charge of our thoughts and our feelings, and our thoughts and our feelings are what makes us interested. So we're in charge. We can make ourselves interested. Here's how you do it. It's a very simple process. First, understand that interest really doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing. Interest comes from the past or the future. See, you're interested in U.S. History 2 because you really liked U.S. History 1. Or you're interested in psychology because although you've never taken psychology, you've always thought that would be really interesting to take. The past, I'm interested in U.S. History 2 because I liked U.S. History 1, so for the past made me interested now. Or I thought by learning psychology one day something wonderful will happen in the future. That'll be a good thing to know. But if I don't see either of those, if there's nothing in the past or nothing in the future, then I don't have any interest. So if I don't see any relevance, any reason to learn it, and there's nothing in the past that made me think it would be fun, I don't have any interest. I have to make some. So how do you make interest? Well, because the subconscious mind, the mind that you find when you go find yourself in paradise, doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. It goes to a movie and, even though the conscious mind knows it's just a movie, the subconscious mind gets into the movie and really believes it. What you do is you have to create a movie in your mind to get yourself interested in the subject. And the way you do that is create an imaginary future. Imagine by learning this subject, something wonderful in the future is going to happen, whether it's real or it just has to be wonderful, that's all. It doesn't even have to be likely. It just has to be wonderful. One of the things I did a long time ago when I had a class in school that I really wasn't interested in, but I really wanted to get interested in, I imagined that one day this really, really cute girl asked me some questions about the subject, and I knew the answers because I studied it, and all of a sudden I go, whoa, that's pretty cool to know. Imagine by learning this subject, one day you'll become famous, or one day you'll be able to help the world, or one day you're going to be able to impress people, or one day... Just imagine that by learning this subject, something wonderful is going to happen. And it doesn't even have to be likely. It just has to be possible.
And that's the emotional part of this. You see, what we're saying is you need one part mental and one part emotional. The mental is the focused part, and the emotional is the passion. The mental is that free will, the intention that we're talking about. You have to choose to be responsible, you choose to be interested, you choose to understand and realize how to apply this material. Those are all choices. That's the mental part, that's the will. And then the passion. You care, even if you're faking it. Like Steve said, fake it till you make it. It works. The subconscious mind doesn't care if what you're thinking is real or imagined. Just spend a little time relaxed, playing around with your imagination, and you'll notice how easy it is to trick yourself into believing this. Steve said the movie. That's the classic example, Steve.
Or a dream.
Yeah, a dream's another good.
Yeah, there's part of you that knows it's not real, but
feels real in the morning.
But the part that matters thinks it's happening. That's the important part. So when you go to study, the first thing you want to do is close your eyes and get relaxed and let go of everything that was going on in your day and get yourself focused in this place of peace. And then you open the book and you look at the first few pages, the first chapter or whatever. You just look at a page for a few seconds, warming up your mind, taking those mental pictures so that when you do go back to read it, it's going to look familiar to you. And then you close your eyes again and you get interested. If you're already interested, let's say it's your favorite subject. Let's say it's history and you love history. Just realize why you love history and get excited about history. But if it's your least favorite subject, maybe it's algebra or something, imagine that one day by learning algebra, you'll be able to do some wonderful things or it'll just make your mind work work better, that you'll be smarter. And this is really actually pretty true about algebra. It's a unique way of thinking. It'll make your mind smarter. Find a way to feel like excited about it. So the first step is, after you get yourself focused, is to scan the material. And the second step is to get excited about it, get interested about it, real or imaginary interest. And then the next thing to do is read. Now, here's the key. You read for as long as your attention span goes, and only that long. When your mind stops paying attention, you're done reading for the moment. Don't push it beyond that, and how long that is doesn't matter. For some people who have quote-unquote attention deficit, I hate to say the word disorder because it's not a disorder at all, really. It's just a difference. It's just a different way. For people who have a short attention span, that's not going to be a very long time. They're going to read for 2 or 3 or 5, sometimes 10 or 15 minutes if it's really a good book, but it's going to be a short amount of time, but it doesn't matter how long it is. For somebody who's really got a long attention span and is fascinated, it might be 20 or 30 minutes, but it doesn't matter how long it is, because as long as you pay attention while you're paying attention, all you need to do is go away from the material, take a break from the material for 10 seconds. You close your eyes for 10 seconds, you go to your safe place for 10 seconds, and then in 10 seconds you can come back and have a brand new attention span. So the secret isn't to have a long attention span, it's to have as long as your attention span is, but to put them back to back to back.
And so this is a wonderful new way to read, where you separate study from reading. And so whatever, as Steve just indicated, is the length of your attention span, you read without thinking about how to read, without thinking about what you're reading, other than that you're just absorbing this information. It's that second level of response, that judgment or reflection that you're going to put off now, you see. And after you've read for whatever is your best sense of an attention period, then rest your eyes for 10 seconds. Think of the blackest black that you can imagine, like black velvet or black silk or the deepest intergalactic black that you can imagine. That rests the rods and cones in your eyes. It also rests the mind. And then when you come back, as we just said, you get a whole new attention span. Okay? Now you're going to study. So you read and then study. Look it over. That might be a very short period. It might be a longer, more intense period, depending on what you're reading, why you're reading it, how important it is. Some of it might require memorization. And you can go back a third time and a fourth time. And we'll talk more about how to study in larger bits and pieces when it comes to, say, a midterm exam or the final exam. But it begins with every reading period followed by a study opportunity to go back and now judge, reflect upon, ponder, consider the ramifications and implications. This is where you highlight. This is where you may write in the margin, well, provided it's your book anyway, or make some notes on some tablet paper, okay? Don't do that while you're reading, then you're not reading.
So once you're done reading, for as long as your mind is paying attention, remember we're saying, when you read in the trifocus, and when you're not paying attention, your eyes will stop. That's going to be your clue. When you're just staring at a word for a while, you've come to the end of your attention span. At that point, whether it's been a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you stop and you close your eyes. Imagine the black velvet Michael was talking about. And then ask yourself, like, what do I think? How do I feel about what I just read? And just see what thoughts and feelings come. Did I like it? Did I love it? Did I hate it? Was it interesting? Was it boring? Did it make sense to me? What part was the most interesting? Just whatever thoughts. You're not trying to memorize it or even remember it in detail. Just whatever thoughts and feelings come up. For just a few moments, ask yourself, how do you feel? What do you think about what you just read? Then you open your eyes and you go back over what you just read. Now, here's the secret. This is not reading. This is studying. So what you do is you go very, very fast, like you skim. You move your eyes very quickly, very, very fast over the material that when you read it the first time a few minutes ago, you realized, I already knew this. You don't have to study what you already knew. And you go very fast, keep going fast over material that when you see it again the second time, you realize, wait a minute, I read this and I got that. Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. I know that now. I read it. I understand that. Keep going. And then if you see stuff that you realize, well, that doesn't matter. That's not going to be on the test. I don't care about that. That's not important. Keep going. And then when you hit something, go, oh, wait a minute. That's something I know is going to be on the test, or that's something I didn't quite understand, or that's something I need to study. You stop. And you look at it again. And maybe again. Great students don't study what they know. They only study what they don't know. So when you go back over the material, you go really fast over what you already knew, really fast over what you got the first time through, really fast over what you can forget, and you only carefully study what you still need to get.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot, regardless of the subject, to be playful and to have fun with what you don't know. Approach it not so much with frustration, and whenever you find yourself feeling somewhat frustrated because you don't know, again, shift gears, get playful. This is not figure it out time. This is let go, stand receptive, open yourself up to new ideas. If you're good at visualizing, walk all the way around this chunk of information that all of a sudden stood up in front of you and said, you don't know me. You don't really understand this little part, do you? Look at it from the other side and then stand above it and then get underneath it and then get inside it and then ask yourself all of the different W's. What is this? Who is this? Where is this? Why is this? How is this? And be playful and pause, you see. The problem with logic is it has this quality of this reduction, this continual breaking down process. I'm going to figure this out, by golly, no matter what it takes, and I'm going to keep grinding away at it and slicing and dicing until I figure it out. Well, that's a wonderful way to think. That's deductive logic. It's very common, especially in math, for example. But lots of these things we don't understand when we move into these study phases. And we stop reading, and we let go, and we open ourselves to realization. There's another good word. Think about it. To make real for you, this aha experience. That's very inductive. That's very intuitive. It's completely different from logic. So allow for that. Shift gears, open yourself, and often you'll find the realization, the understanding you're looking for just begins to form, to take shape right in your mind.
So when it's time to study, be responsible and get interested. It's easy to do. First, warm up by looking at the material and then figure out a reason to be interested. Now, it could just be, I want a good grade. I'm really interested in learning this because that A is really important to me. Or it could be that learning this subject I know is going to help me in my career. I know it's going to be something fascinating to talk about on dates. Find some reason to be interested. And then read for as long as you pay attention, and then close your eyes and go back over it in your mind for a few moments, and then open your eyes and go back over it really fast. Again, really fast, except stopping on those pieces you think you need the most. Again, just study those pieces you need the most. You don't have to study the whole thing. A lot of it you got the first time through. A lot of it you already knew, and a lot of it you can tell isn't real important. The important stuff that you didn't already know and you didn't definitely get the first time through, that's the stuff you go over now. And then the next piece, once you've done that, once you've gone over that material, is to do it again, is to scan right through that material really, really fast, keep going really, really fast. And if there's nothing that slows you down, now you know you got it. If you go through and you find something that slows you down again, there's something you still need to study. When you can skim through that whole thing really, really fast, and I'm talking about much faster than you could possibly read. Just looking at a word or two per sentence, you've already read this thing 2 or 3 times now. Just looking at a word or two, I remember that. If you can come through the whole thing, the whole attention span's worth of stuff without having to stop again, then you know you got it. And then the next thing you do is you want to rehearse remembering. You want to give your mind an opportunity to know that when it comes time to remember this stuff, you will. So what you do is you visualize or imagine yourself with your mind's eye, your mind's ear, and all of your mind senses. You imagine yourself successfully taking the test.
I also want to mention very quickly the importance of self-confidence. And I'll give you a shortcut. If in study and attempting to understand difficult concepts, you made an assumption that the answer is available to you, that there is some part of your mind or your brain or who you are that is without question, capable of understanding this. You see, if you start with the premise that you might somehow be lacking a gene, or your brain is somehow deficient, that's going to become self-fulfilling in many cases, if not most cases. And so keep your attitude straight. Start with the idea right out of the gate that I'm able to understand this stuff. If I just got the missing piece here, there's something missing that I don't quite get yet, but I will, and it's just a matter of time. And if I'm patient, or maybe if I talk to somebody about this, I remember and have discussions with others, not just about the parts I do understand, but maybe most importantly about the parts I don't understand, and ponder and reflect, and again, bring that playfulness to it, but come from that place that, without question, I have the capability to understand.
And start with that feeling in mind. When you begin, you're not supposed to know the material already. It's unfamiliar to you. What you're supposed to believe is that you will know it when you're done. Just that feeling, confidence that you will know this when you're done. So you put yourself into your peaceful place, and then you open your eyes and scan through the material very quickly to warm up your mind, and then you get interested. You build up the interest you already have, or you create interest by imagining some wonderful reward, and then you read for your attention span. You close your eyes and reflect for a few moments. You open your eyes and you scan back through it again, picking out the pieces you need to study. And then when it comes time to prepare for the test, you get yourself really ready to succeed at your best performance by closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, and guess what? Going back to paradise, back to your peaceful place. And in this place of paradise, here's how you prepare for your test. You imagine yourself as if it's early morning and you're waking up in your bed and you're realizing, today's the test. And your first thought is, I'm ready. And you're feeling excited and you're feeling confident. And you imagine yourself getting up and getting dressed and getting ready. And you imagine yourself going to school and walking into the classroom the day of the exam. And you see yourself sitting down. You can either see this through your own eyes or imagine yourself watching yourself doing it. But you see yourself sitting down at your desk and the teacher passes out the exam and you're ready to go. And then time stops. And it's as if an invisible part of yourself, the higher self, the bigger picture, is able to step back, drift back out of your body, and watch yourself take that test. And you can see yourself. You're too far away to see what questions the teacher has written on that exam, or even too far away to see the answers you're writing. But from the distance, watching yourself, what you can see so clearly is that gleam in your eye and that smile on your face and that confident way you're holding your body and your shoulders and the way your pen is just going answer after answer after answer. You know what you look like when you're doing great, and that's what you look like. You look like you're doing great. You can just feel it. You can just see it. You can just know by looking that you're doing great. And you see yourself finish the test early, and you hand it in with a feeling of confidence, and you walk out the door, and bam, it's the next class day. And you walk back in the class, and you sit back down at your desk, and the teacher passes back the corrected exam, and there's a big red A on top, and you go, yeah. And you feel that confidence, and you imagine yourself taking that test every single day for a week before the exam, 15 times a day. Takes 10 or 20 seconds. You close your eyes, you imagine yourself taking that test, doing great, 15 times a day for a week before the exam. On the day of the test, the mind will go, this test again? I've taken this test over 100 times, and I always get an A on this test. You'll have a habit of getting an A on that test. And this works great under one condition, and that is if the information is already in your mind. You got to study for this technique to work.
You see why we're talking about studying the material in detail. We're talking about studying the material conceptually, but we're also talking about studying yourself and understanding that you are the good student if you form that intention. I have a quick story for you. It's from a book written in the late 19th century, over 100 years old, and it tells the story of a European equestrian, a man who rode horses and was able to get these horses to do amazing things. It said he could take a plow horse off a farm and get it to jump fences immediately. It was just this rapport he had with these horses. And a reporter, I think, said to him once, "How do you do that? What's the secret? What's the trick?" And the fellow looked at him and said, well, it's really quite simple and very easy. He said, I throw my heart over the fence and the horse follows. You see, whether it's sports psychology, whether it is the kind of accelerated learning that we're talking about, whether it's learning better communication and relationships, to lead with your heart is to say, I'm not going to just wait till this circumstance or event is over to see how I feel. I'm going to gather up or conjure up or form an intention to create a positive feeling to begin with, to go into the study, to go into the test situation feeling like a winner. And Google it if you don't believe us. The research is 30 years old in all these different areas that it makes a difference. So study the details, study the overarching concepts, but study yourself and be the one who affirms and confirms, I'm a great student, I love to learn, and carry that self-confidence with you. Throw that heart over the fence.
And so every day before the exam, you imagine yourself taking the test, imagine yourself doing great. And when it comes time to actually take the exam, here's some tips to keep in mind. First of all, the first thing you do when you sit down is you take a slow, deep breath. You want to make sure that you stay in that relaxed state. If you find yourself getting nervous, the solution is always to stop for just 1 second, and take one deep breath. You don't have to close your eyes. You just take one deep breath. Now, when it comes to taking true-false tests, what you want to do is read the question. If you know the answer, answer it, true or false. If you're not sure, skip the question, go to the next one. If you know the answer, answer it, and go through the test and answer the ones you know for sure first. And once you've answered every question you know the answer for sure, then go back to the top. And when you're not sure if it is true or false, get a feeling which one seems more right. Is the T darker than the F in your mind? Does it feel more true or more false? Go first over the ones you know and get those right, and then go back and use your intuition to answer the others.
Great idea. Don't get in the argument. You already gave logic one chance. And if on the second pass, logic argues with intuition or that feeling, well, give it to the feeling. Logic had a chance. Unless the logic makes a much better argument, maybe it realizes something new. But that's a very important technique. Now, same thing with multiple choice exams. Very same thing. Also, remember the tendency is to rush. There is such a thing as going too slow, but you're better off if you just slow yourself down, don't rush, read the material, and if you know it, answer it. If you're pretty sure you know it, answer it. If you don't know it, move on. Don't linger. Don't waste time. Just keep moving smoothly through the test. And when you've finished that segment, that part, then time provided, you go back, and just as you did with the true and false, now you use in this pass your intuition.
Right, and if you can bring it down to two of the, say there's 3 or 4 or 5 choices, do your best to bring it down to 2 and then use your intuition. Which of those 2 seems like your best choice? So when it comes to multiple choice tests, it's much the same. You run through and get the ones you know right first. So many people fail on tests because they don't answer all the questions. They get stuck up on the ones they don't know, and they never get to the ones at the end of the test that they did know the answer to. So go through the ones, get the ones you do know first. Now, when it comes to writing an essay or a short answer to a test, when it comes to a written answer, here's the most important thing to keep in mind. The person who's grading this test, your teacher, has to read a lot of these things. And they want to know that you know the answer to the question as soon as possible so that they can read the rest of the answer really quickly because they know you already know it. If they can't tell right away that you know the answer, they have to drudgingly, carefully read through the whole thing. So the secret is very simple. Whenever you write an answer, you don't start writing. You organize it in your mind, and the first thing you write is, this is what I'm going to tell you. This, and this is what I'm going to tell you. Then you tell them this, and then you tell them the next thing, and then you explain the next thing and the next thing, and you end with, this is what I told you, this, and this.
Right, exactly. 3 points. You tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. And the first part is a lot like a newspaper. Steve's talking like a teacher because he is, and so am I. And Yet we both have a lot of experience writing news stories and press releases and such, and it's the same thing. Say it right up front, get it right, then flesh it out. Now demonstrate the depth and the quality of your knowledge. But Steve's right. Bam! Give them a whole 1-2 right up front. Make it clear that you are spot on, that you are lucid, and understand what they're looking for.
So whenever you answer the question, the first thing you want to do is make them know, make the teacher know, or the reader of the question, that you know the answer. Tell them what you're going to tell them. And then that's your outline. You've given them 3, 4, 5 points that you're going to tell them. Now that's your outline. Go in detail in each of those points and then recap them at the end. That makes it easier for them to grade it, and they're going to enjoy it more. Now, when it comes to studying and you find your mind wandering, see, we do have to deal with some people have attention issues. If you find your mind wandering when you're studying and you keep trying to bring it back, but it keeps going away, you might need to have some music or television playing in the background. If you find that distracting, then turn it off. But if you find it comforting and you start to not notice it anymore, but it's just there as a drone and it helps you study, give that a shot. Some of you need to study with very bright lights. Some of you need to study in rooms that have a little bit of noise going on. Some people need quiet. Find what works for you. Find how long works for you, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes. When you're done, when your mind has stopped studying, you don't want to push yourself to keep studying, but do understand that sometimes all it takes is to close your eyes and to find yourself in paradise for just 10 seconds for your mind to relax and release and be ready to move on.
We have not talked much about memory in this program, but we will, so continue to listen to the series. In fact, what else are we going to cover in the 2 parts that follow this?
Well, we're going to talk about memory and recall and how to remember versus memorize. We're going to talk about how to do both of those things. But we're also going to talk about the learning skills involved in listening and communicating. We're going to talk about resolving conflicts and asking for help. We're going to talk about finding mentors. And we're going to talk about the nature of being an accelerated learner, not just in the areas of academics, but in all other areas of life as well. Learning is fundamental not only to school, but to all of our lives. So this family learning hour is learning how to learn. It's reading, study, memory, test taking, but it's so much more. It's attitude and it's communication and it's working together. It's being the best you can be when it comes to intake, processing, and output of information by yourself and in a team.
So join us next week for part 3 of our little mini-series, the Family Learning Hour. And as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner.